If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement, Male Advantage ebook, or my personal workout and diet plan, all links are in the bio. Okay guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, it's highly requested. We're going to do the Poulter transformation. It's not going to be a Male Advantage journey video. It kind of is. It's kind of a mini one, but I just think he's got so many more years of his Male Advantage to go yet. I feel like this is the first year, 28, where he started experiencing the Male Advantage. It's all coming together for him. So to do a journey wouldn't really make sense. Maybe we could do that down the line. Maybe I could, do a podcast with him in person and go through it all. That would be fantastic. That's kind of like the new format of videos that I'm looking to do, much higher quality in the future. Just a heads up as well, obviously I can't be on video for like another 2 days. I did the final third treatment for my SMP the other day, the hair restoration thing if you would, and it takes like 4 days for you to be able to shower. So I always leave it 5 just to be sure. So obviously I look like shit, and the hair that's still on my head, especially on the back and sides, it keeps growing and the stuff on top doesn't. So it just makes me look like shit. I kind of feel like shit for a couple of days because obviously I can't shower and stuff, but it's not the main reason why I'm not on camera. It's more out of respect for Jay, who did the SMP treatment. Because if I'm sat on camera and I look like shit and the hair doesn't look good because obviously it needs to be washed and, razor blade and whatever to look proper because it's not all the same length right now. Well then, people might just be like, oh, SMP shit, I'm not going to use that guy. Like, it's just not fair, really, is it? So that video is probably going to be coming out on Sunday. What we did is we filmed episode 1, as you guys saw. That's out already. You guys can see that. But we filmed episode 2 and 3 together in order to prevent repetition. Otherwise, just, somebody doing the treatment on the top of your head 3 times, it'd be a bit boring. So we mixed it up. We made it into, it is a 3-parter because I did the video at the start as to why I'm getting it done. But it is treatment 2 and treatment 3 together, so you guys will be able to see the final end results on Sunday. And I'll talk about my experiences at the end as well, which would be pretty cool. But for the sake of this video, guys, the main thing that we're focusing on and the reason for this video are these pictures here, okay? I'll bring the second one up in a minute. But people have been going crazy about Poulter and what he's managed to achieve, okay? Like this woman said here, the Hemsworthification. Yeah, I mean, he does look a little bit like Chris Hemsworth. Like, his change is pretty drastic. Here on the right, you would say like Hollywood studs, like your typical good-looking guy. On the left, like just kind of, you don't ever want to say ugly kids, and I don't think he is ugly either. That's one point I'm going to make in this video, but it's not your superstar on the left, is it? He's made a dramatic transformation, and probably more so in the last, let's say, 2-3 years, because as a kid, you're just a kid, right? But when he entered his early 20s, he looked kind of weird. Like, he was out of shape, he looked kind of weird, carrying a lot of body fat. It was nothing like this. It's probably even more drastic, to be honest. I'll create something now in editing and I'll bring it up so you can see the side by side. But it's pretty crazy. Now, we've got this picture here. Okay, if we just zoom in. You can see there's like, his body fat is still way higher than Chris Hemsworth. He hasn't had as many years to kind of look like this. I'm sure if he continues getting superstar roles, which I'm sure he will now after landing Adam Warlock in Marvel, well, I think he'll get closer to this step by step. But you can see the change, okay? You can see that he's starting to, fit that Hemsworth mold. So there's obviously something that they do in Hollywood to kind of transfer people from here over to here. And that's one thing that I'm going to look into today as somebody who is into improving your looks, improving your body, the overall appearance, doing the correct things to get the most effective results. I'm going to break down what I think he did and how he got those results and how he changed so much, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is look at him when he was a kid, all right? So here, like, he's not got the best of skin, and I think it comes from, he's quite pasty as well as having freckles and then the red cheeks on top, and I just don't think is a good complexion. It's not what you would choose, if you get what I mean, okay? So there was that to begin with. his hair, like, he's got great hair, but it's just everywhere. He doesn't really take care of it. You know, he's got these wacky eyebrows, which actually become a benefit later down the line, which we'll look into. But he's got these wacky eyebrows to begin with. He's obviously got this this nose that almost doesn't match his face, right? It just looks a little bit too big. The nostrils, I know they're flared here because he's obviously acting, but they are really wide, okay? And many people have said he looks like Sid from Toy Story. It was something that was going around for a while. He was considered an ugly guy, okay? Which is, it's quite eye-opening, because if you actually look at these features in depth, which we will in a minute, they're actually fantastic features. They just don't get displayed well, and I'll explain later. But it's almost the same with his lips, and this gap here almost looks too big. You know, if you're being picky, I don't want to really be that guy that's picking out on things, but I guess this is where the perceived flaws would have came from. And here you can see he's got puffy cheeks, you know, the jawline is not fantastic. Like, he's just a kid, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean too much, but we're just looking at the base model here, okay? So as he started to grow up, this is the kind of form that he took. I think this is in We Are the Millers. And, yeah, it's not really what anybody would want to chase after, okay? It's the same features. He's still got the exact same things going on. He's just not emphasizing them in the correct way. There's massive potential here, and this is why sometimes when I say on the channel, sometimes I'll say like any man can go from a 1 to a 10. Somebody might look like this, right? And I'm not talking about just looks. People think I'm talking about just looks. I'm talking about body, success, assets, life setup. There's so many things that come with it, okay? And collectively, any man can become a 10. But you would look at him here. If he wasn't famous, he was on the street, maybe like a 2 out of 10, okay? But there's major things that he's not doing, because there's massive potential here, as we now see from the transformation that he made, okay? So I'm just going to do this quick comparison at the start so you can see what he looked like before. I'll show you how he kind of evolved. We'll just go through that now. And then I'll do the actual breakdown of what I think he did, okay? So as we can see here, nothing too special. Most guys would probably believe that they're at that level or above. As we can see here, look, decent. Look, he's actually got decent cheekbones and stuff like that. There's some decent features there. It's just not being brought out, okay? There's massive potential. It's just not being used. Same again here, in my opinion. You could see something taking shape as he got a little bit older. This is quite eye-opening as well. Look at this. When he's not really trying, okay? Just wearing quite, I don't know, just not popular clothing. Maybe it's popular, but he's just not wearing it right. It's a little bit creepy. But then when he dresses up a little, you know, he's got a gorgeous girlfriend on his arm. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was potential there. It's just, and this is something I'll get to in a minute. You know, when somebody starts trying and they use the lighting and the correct hair and etc., the correct clothes and whatnot, and he gets in shape, like, you get an image like this where you start thinking, okay, this guy's coming together. You know, he's having this success journey out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know he was this good looking. He's made a big transformation. It's like, no, there's one major secret here, guys. And it's that, you know, and this is going to be my first point, is that he started to try. Because if we look at pictures like this, he was always taking roles like this where he didn't need to be the heartthrob. He didn't need to be the superhero. Like here again. Like he doesn't really care. Right? He's a terrific actor. And in the past, he's taken on roles like the one I just showed you where he, you know, doesn't look too good, so to speak. He played a racist police officer in Detroit, I believe. Like, he hasn't really cared. He was in We Are the Millers or We the Millers. You know, it's just comedies and whatnot. You can see by his hair, it's just not styled. He's got fantastic hair, as we now know, but he's just, do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't give a shit. That's just a standards. It's not even a decent buzz cut. It's almost just like grade 4 over the whole thing. Yeah, that'll do. Let's go. Like, it's still hanging over his ears here. He's a decent high level of body fat. Like, he didn't really give a shit. He was more focused on his career, which is what I tell you guys to do in the early days. Like, you should work on yourself, but your main focus should be success. And that is something that we'll get to later as to how it's helped him so much, okay? But as I said, the first point, he started to care. He actually started to give a shit. Because, as I mentioned in the early days, like, he was doing roles that didn't really benefit his looks. He was like shaving his head grade 4 all over, not really giving a fuck. He's got that hair sitting on the ears. Like, that's somebody who's just like, well, yeah, I don't really care. Like, that's not something I focus on. But as soon as you start caring about your looks, as soon as you start doing deliberate things, you can make major changes. And that's when the exact same face with the exact same features, the same skin tone, the freckles, etc., now becomes attractive. So before, that same complexion, skin tone, the freckles, etc. wasn't too appealing. Whereas now, wow, fantastic. You know, face of a model. Those eyebrows that we took the piss out of at the start, now he looks like David Beckham. You know, now his eyes are popping. Looks really attractive. You know, now his nose is like almost that button nose that so many people go to have surgery to get because it's a lot more chiseled. It's starting to come out. This gap is now looking more appropriate. It was actually looking quite attractive. You know, his hair, now it's salon quality. You know, it's not just a grade 4 buzz cut. He's actually put some effort in. He's actually tried to make it look good. Somebody styled it before they've taken the picture for him. Like, there's a massive difference when you actually give a fuck. But if you look at it on a core element, if we were to shave this grade 4 all over, let it hang on the ears again, up his body fat by 3-4%, like, he's back to the same guy. You can make very subtle changes, guys, and have massive differences. It's just knowing what to do. And this is what these Hollywood experts know. It's what I've managed to figure out via trial and error over all these years. And there's just certain things, like I showed you guys before, about how neck training can make you like twice as attractive. It's something as simple as that. Like, a lot of guys are trying to look better, but they're doing the complete wrong things. They're going out and spending like $2,000 on new clothes, which, you know, clothes will help. But without the frame, without the posture, without the muscles, it doesn't matter how many clothes you buy, you're not going to look that good, okay? Like, a guy with a £100 budget and the perfect body, posture, frame, etc., low body fat, can make £100 worth of clothes look better than a 10 grand Armani suit. Hands down. Just because of the frame that's underneath. And that all comes from just doing deliberate things that are based on aesthetics. And this is, you know, once you're presented with a role like Adam Warlock and you're offered, I don't know, like 4 or 5 million to step up and do that role, you're going to start giving a shit. You're going to start putting the effort in, okay? And that's just something that he started doing. Like I said, salon quality hair. He's probably going for facials. He's probably, you know, looking after his skin, actually having a regime. He's probably exfoliating for the first time in his life because men don't do that shit. Even if you're an actor, like, maybe nobody's ever told him because he's a comedic actor. Like, he's not cared. He's not asked the questions. Like, that's male life. We don't really give a shit about this stuff, okay? And like I said, he's gone and improved his wardrobe as well. Like, this image here really displays that. The one I showed you a minute ago. Just simply putting on something like this, doing your hair properly, taking care of your skin, getting a good night's sleep. Like, suddenly it all comes together. He's exfoliated. They've put probably a little bit of makeup on him or whatever, but now he's presenting this image to the world. And it's like, damn, actually, Will Poulter's quite a good-looking guy. I never knew he had this potential. Just all turns around, guys, okay? Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that, guys, it's pretty simple. He wasn't this young anymore. He just turned 28. Okay? There's something about male life that if you're willing to put a minimal amount of work in, it will reward you. It's like a compound effect of age. I'm 29, guys. All the women I grew up with are no longer attractive to me anymore. Okay? Girls that I met when they were like 18, 19, that are now like 23, 24 years old, you know, just from a few years ago, they just don't look like they used to. They're still all attractive, but you can see the slip is already occurring. And it doesn't matter how much work they put in, it's very hard for them to fight it. Whereas as a man, once you go past a certain age, you can put minimal amount of work in and things just seem to come together. In the early days, it's a struggle, but there's certain natural things that just help us out. Like, your frame just fills out, your kind of puppy fat in the face just diminishes, it just lowers slightly. As you get older, you drink less. You clean up your diet because you realize that health is important. You realize that, hey, you might want to actually have a baby. You want to take care of your fertility. You know, your sperm's probably in a shit state. So you start going, hey, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm just going to slightly hit the gym, clean up my diet, and I'm going to drink less. Like, real small changes. But as a man, as you get older, step by step, and the money comes in and the assets get better, you start understanding your looks and You know, you go, God, I can't have this hair anymore. I look awful. Like, I can't believe I never used to trim my nose hairs. You know, something really small. But as you get older, you gain a little bit more respect for these things. You gain respect for hygiene. You understand and appreciate the importance of wearing an iron shirt and wearing aftershave. You know, smelling good, looking good, getting up early, being productive. Suddenly your life starts moving forward and getting better. And, you know, Will just turned 28. And it's not going to happen the day you turn 28. But I've broken down. I said like 28 is kind of the trigger age, because 27 is the age where the tables start to turn, where women start to see men as the prize rather than the other way around. Women that are the same age, that is. And those tables start to turn. And this is when, you know, that compound effect, if you would, of being at a 9-to-5 job that you hated and finally getting a promotion in that job or moving on to a better job takes place. That's when finally you go, shit, do you know what, I'm going to get a gym membership. It takes men years to find shit out. I don't know whether it's a maturity thing. I don't know whether it's trial and error, and, you know, females just get given beauty, they get given their sex appeal, they get given all their value up front without having to do anything, so there's no learning curve. But for us, there's a massive learning curve. Like I said, trial and error. What if I do this? Why did I used to have my hair like that? Like, Will Poulter probably looks back and thinks, grade 4 all over, just hacking away at it, probably doing it himself. Why the fuck was I doing that? Do you know, like, he probably looks back and thinks, oh, Jesus, like, that's terrible. Why wasn't I in the gym 3 years ago? My life is so much better now and I'm getting paid more. These are things that we just figure out as we go through life, okay, guys? So my second point is that he just got older. Like, it's such a simple thing to say, but he just got older. It's very much like I say to you guys, stay in shape throughout your 20s and into your 30s, because the financials, you should always work on success and financials, but the probably the most important component when you're young is staying in shape, because financials, even if you do fuck all, will take care of themselves. Like, if you can get them to a high level, look, they probably are the most important thing in that sense, but if you do nothing and you're lazy, just stay in shape, because you will inherit money. You will get a promotion simply for the fact that you just turned 30 and your boss is like, I can trust this guy now. You know, you just go to a basic job every day and you put in minimal effort. Like, eventually you'll just rise up the career ladder. You just, like, even if you're slow about it and lazy and you take your time, like, you're probably just going to earn more money just because, okay? Just because of experience and age and trust and stuff like that. So it's like, just stay in shape and then eventually it all comes together. And that's something that Will's not really done. He's not really, like, worried about staying in shape, but because he has money, which is my next kind of idea as to why he looks the way he does, because he's got money, he was able to kind of activate this a lot quicker. Okay, so the kind of body transformations, if you would, you know, he can use a personal trainer. He can have the best supplements. He's got the highest quality foods. He might even have his own chef with the money that he's being paid, okay? The salon quality hair, he's probably got a specialist doing that for him. The skin looking better, he's probably consulted a dietitian. Like, he's got the money to wear clothes like this. I know it's obviously given to him for a photo shoot, but he's got the money to go out there and make these things happen quickly. And this is why taking care of your financials, again, is so important. That's why I always promote fitness and success when you're young, and just forget about everything else. Don't worry about the assets and whatnot, because those things can kind of be put in place in like a month if you've got money and you've got like a decent frame. There's not a lot else to worry about, okay? Like, let's say you get to 30 years old and you've got 5 million in the bank, you've been working your nuts off, everything's come together, you're in shape, you've maintained it all. You're just like, hey, I want a better life. Okay, well, you go and drop like 30 grand on a Range Rover. How long does that take? You can do that in a day, right? You go and get a mortgage. What does that take? Like 2 weeks? You got the money to do it. Okay, so now you're a good-looking guy who's got money, who's in shape, with a house and a car, a really nice house and a car. Okay, now I need some clothes. Well, you can do that in an afternoon. Do you see what I mean, guys? Like, oh, girls like nice shoes. I can go and buy 9 pairs right now. Like, there's certain shit that doesn't take long to do if you do the other 2 first. Like, they're your fundamentals and you need to tick them first. And by having money, like I said, he's able to execute on these things quicker. Like, I'm sure we'll get to it later as well. There's some PEDs, there's some steroids involved. I'm sure there is. It's Hollywood, that's what they do. It's his first body transformation, so he might not have to because he's getting beginner gains. But at the same time, if he wants to do that, he's got the money. Marvel themselves, even though they probably wouldn't, well, obviously they'd never admit it, they would be happy to fund that to make sure that he looked great for the film. You know, so he's in a better position than the average person, but the message that you can take there is as long as you get your financials up, by the time you get to the male advantage years, you can just make shit happen quickly. Like, you can turn around in 6 months. You can go from just some rich young kid to suddenly a full-grown man with everything that he's ever wanted. Like, you start just putting these puzzle pieces in place. It's pretty cool, actually. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the actual body transformation, okay, guys? So, if we can get a picture, you can't really see him when he was young, to be honest. I should have, I'll put something up now, I'll throw it in, but obviously we've got, you know, this skinny little kid that doesn't look good. You know, he's not filling his clothes, as we can see from this picture here. It's just a frail frame. If I can find a picture in post-editing when, or just in post, sorry, if I can find a picture of him with his top off or just looking skinny when he was young, then I'll pull it up. And we can just see it's just quite a frail frame. He's never really done anything towards it. But then, obviously, as we know, it's probably the main part of playing a superhero, supervillain. I don't know, he's kind of both, isn't he, Adam Warlock? So we've got here the first kind of beginner gains. This is when I think he's definitely natural. I think this is when he just simply cleaned up his diet and started lifting weights for the first time, got some beginner gains, started to look better. Okay, he's got six-pack but no chest. It's like the typical, I know he's not a teenager here, but it's like the typical teenager body where you can be ripped but without having masses of muscle, okay? So this is kind of stage one. You can see that the development has begun, the change has begun. So, you know, this is step one. Fair play to him for doing that. And then we kind of get to this stage. As I showed you guys earlier, where the arms are padded out, the chest is coming in. Like, there's something happening here, okay? And I'm sure by the film, he's going to look absolutely jacked, because obviously he's got some more time to do all that shit, right? I assume the film's not coming out for like another 2 years, so I think by the time it comes around, he's going to be a completely different guy. Wouldn't be shocked if he was on like testosterone or something. You know, it's just a very easy way to do it. It's quite safe in a way as well if you've got that much money and you've got your blood work being checked all the time. So that's probably what he's done. That's not to put you guys off. I've been through a body transformation. I think I look better than he does, and I've done it naturally. So, you know, something that any guy can do. It's just obviously he's doing it for a movie role. They got to know that it's going to happen. Okay, they got to know that when he turns up, he's going to look the fucking shit. And they probably couldn't trust his genetics in the early days. But there was a point where he was natural, I think. Doesn't look unnatural yet. He still look, you know, but by the movie, I think he'll probably be jacked off his tits. And, you know, it's just worth mentioning that, because otherwise it's like the Kylie Jenner effect, where all these young girls thought that they could pout a lot and do squats and get an ass and lips. But in reality, she's dropped like 4 million on her body. So it's always worth mentioning it, just so you guys have got all the information, okay? But the other thing he's done, and this is pivotal to the facial changes, let's get this picture up here, is, as I talked about earlier, let's get tighter, there we go. As I talked about earlier, we've got a select few facial features that previously, when he was young and he was puffy, had high body fat percentage, they didn't really look too good. They were actually weaknesses, but they've become very much strengths now that he's, people say grow into your face, but it's just adding muscle, packing out your frame, dropping the body fat percentage, cleaning up your skin. You know, it's just very subtle things you can do. I think he looks better as well with his hair being wider, if that makes sense. The way it's combed over, and it actually adds more volume. It covers over his ears. He hasn't got bad ears, but when he had that cut earlier, see if I can show you guys now, see if we can get out of here. It was this one. As we can see here, they look way less attractive there because of the trim. You know, it's unbalanced trim as well. It's shorter on this side than it is on that side. Maybe he's got a head dent. By having longer hair, it's actually covered all of that up, made him more symmetrical, okay? It actually looks a lot better. But like I said earlier, these eyebrows are now David Beckham-esque. They're probably his best feature now. You know, he doesn't even have like a popping brow bone here, which is something that a lot of guys kind of sought after. But at the same time, because of the eyebrows, it gives him this pronounced brow. Okay, so a feature that was once terrible or viewed as horrible is now maybe perhaps his most attractive, along with the eyes, okay? But the other thing he's done, and this is pivotal to the facial changes, let's get this picture up here, is, as I talked about earlier, Pretty much the perfect distance here from hair to brows. It's the golden ratio as such. He's pretty much got that. These like wrinkles on the forehead, they actually look quite defined with the hair as well, matching in. Makes him look attractive. You know, these are all things that would be terrible if he was out of shape, if he hadn't made the transformations. You know, this hair is 10 times more healthy. This skin is shinier. He's much leaner. His body fat percentage is much lower. If he gets down to 10% body fat, we're going to see another drastic transformation because he's probably at like 15 now, which is why we've seen the first couple changes. We can see here he's still got slightly puffy cheeks. You know, that can be addressed. As we know from a previous picture, he's got pretty decent cheekbones. I think we're going to see some drastic change again. But as I said to you guys before, when I got down to roughly 10-11% body fat, my nose bone was popping. I made a joke of it. I was like, it's a weird thing to say. But my nose bone was just looking solid, like the grooves here. He's got the same thing appearing now. So that piggy nose, if you would, that everybody kind of used to take the piss out of and say he looked like Sid from Toy Story. Well, now, again, his nose is a fantastic feature. It's something that a lot of people would want. You know, this gap here, because there's grooves and angles and dips and there's no padding here and there's a dip here which connects to the nose. Instead of all of this just being mush, as I described in a previous video a few months back, I think it was to do with how body fat is the most important thing for men. He now has angles. Angles, dips, angles. It adds, you know, it's not just one long line of skin. There's some shape to this. And that's one thing on a male face that makes a massive difference. Women can just be a round face with pretty eyes and big lips. And they're causing damage. You know, they can be a massively attractive woman. Add a bit of cleavage in and she can be like an 8 out of 10, right? But for men, we need these like hollow cheeks. We need these angles. We need these grooves. We need to be able to see these kind of lines and the differentials here. So now we finally have, not the best chin in the world, but we have a chin and we can see the start of a jawline. We can see that. We can see these dips and grooves here. We can see where it separates from the nose. We can see the grooves here. We can actually see a nose bone popping out. We can actually see a brow bone. You know, we can actually see the cheekbone is actually wrapping around here. We can see a sign of it. Okay, so it's just like the first signs of an actual face coming through. I think once he gets down to 10% body fat, we're going to see something really drastic. But looking at this face, I still see the same kids. I just see an improved version of it. And this is why I always say any man can go from a 1 to a 10, because the potential for a lot of guys is there. Even if you're an ugly guy, as long as you get in shape, do the correct things, you know, get down to 10% body fat, neck training, you know, aesthetics, like you got to bulk first with your body, but after like 2-3 years, if you then go and focus on aesthetics, if you take care of your skin, you know, you actually you invest money into your body. Okay, you know, McGregor does it, LeBron James does it, Eddie Hall does it. I can't do it on that level. I'm not as wealthy as those guys yet, but I've started pumping money into my, like, the way I look. You know, I said to you guys when I turn 30, which is going to be in August, end of August, I'm going to start really taking care of, like I'm going to add clothes in. I'm going to take a Saturday off. Like, I'm really going to start taking care of my health rather than working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week and wearing the same clothes, you know, for 3-4 years running and not really giving a shit. Like, there's just little subtle changes that you can make in your life, okay? And Will's gotten to that point. He's at a point where he's been paid a massive amount of money. He's been given a giant opportunity. He's taken it with both hands. He's made these subtle changes. You know, cleaning up his diet. That single thing alone. Like, I told you guys before, he didn't care. He didn't care about the way he looked. He didn't care about the way he lived. He was a comedic actor, okay? Not always. I know he was in Maze Runner as well, I think. Played a pretty good role in that. But again, he was like an aggressive, just kind of the bully of the group. Like, I think he was anyway, guys. I think he was the bully of the group. I've only watched that film briefly once. But these sort of roles aren't what he's trying to do now. So he had no reason to get in shredded shape. He had no reason to clean up his diet. He probably got home at night, thought nothing of having, not every night, but I imagine he like 2 beers and some shit food, sat in front of the TV and, you know, just he was young. His metabolism was able to like maintain that kind of 18 to 21% body fat normality that most guys kind of sustain year round. And there was no reason to improve. But now that he's actually had to try, that's when we're seeing crazy results. And as many people are saying, as we see here. It's like a Hemsworthification. Like how you can go from, like, Chris Hemsworth is considered one of the best, most attractive looking men on the planet, right? Most girls would want Chris Hemsworth. Most guys would look at Chris Hemsworth and be like, that guy's a stud. Like that's who I would ideally like to look like. Like that would be a dream scenario. He's gone from this like young, awkward looking kid to a Chris Hemsworth lookalike. He could be one of the brothers. And he's still not done yet. You know, and this is like kind of, I know it's a bad picture, but this is kind of the state of the guy that we're dealing with to begin with. How can that turn into Chris Hemsworth? That's mental, right, guys? Absolutely mental. Now, he's not there yet. Like I said, he's got a long way to go. He's probably still got to get down to that low body fat percentage, probably a few more steroid cycles like Chris Hemsworth has, which he could do. Could you get to Chris Hemsworth level naturally? Maybe with the right genetics, but the average guy on the street could get within the ballpark. I'm not saying close, but you can get to your genetic potential, which is still far better than sitting around at like 21% body fat and just being an average bum, okay, guys? So, you know, whatever you do is going to improve you and improve your life and make things better. So you might as well go for it, right? And we've seen a perfect example of this here. And that's the way I think he's done it, guys, okay? So a quick recap. I think he's reached 28 years old, which just has a dramatic effect on men and beyond, as long as you take care of yourself, which he now is. I think he started to care. So stuff like salon quality hair, facials, clothes, you know, actually looking into these things and asking the right questions. You know, probably most importantly, the body transformation, low body fat percentage, clean diet, which will just change everything. If you're not eating shit anymore, like, skin's going to look better, hair will look healthier, you'll feel better, you'll have more energy, you'll be giving off positive vibes, you'll get in better shape. Like, it's just a complete change. And then finally, and, you know, potentially an audible that people can't really use, but it's not that cost effective. It's not that costly, guys, but he had money, okay? It makes the transition quicker. That's what I've written down here. It just turns into a quick transition. But even if you don't have money, it's something that you can do. It will just take a lot longer. You're not going to have the personal trainer, the chef, the dietitians. You're not going to get the knowledge as quickly. Your trial and error, your curve's going to be a lot longer because you can't consult the people that, let's say Chris Hemsworth's trainer and the people that he has in his team. Marvel could be like, oh, can you now work with Poulter? You know, or can you give him some advice? You can give him some tips. What has Chris done? What is Chris taking? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to just consult somebody who's done it before. We don't have that luxury. You just have shitty resources like First Man, and I'm kidding, guys. But that's what I think he's done. That's how he's done his transition, okay, or his transformation, if you would. And that's how you go from just some awkward kids to kind of this transitional stage where it starts to pop through to this stage where you're like top 5% of men on the planet, you know, or he's not far off that at the moment. So that's what I think he's done, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be back on camera soon, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers, guys. If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement, Male Advantage ebook, or my personal workout and diet plan, all links are in the bio.